Hi, everyone. Nathan from jazzguitarlessons.net here. I actually really wanted to say, hi, my name is Marc from jazzguitarlessons.net, and this is your Q&A webinar stream for the month of June 2019. 2019, that's what year we're in, right? What year is it? June 2019, and this Q&A webinar session will be all about the classic jazz standard, All of Me. It's a great tune in the key of C major. It's a good old classic standby that you should probably learn at some point in your life. And so we're going to take you through the three arrangements in the comping study. Sorry, three arrangements. The comping study, the chord melody, and the single note solo found in the jazz standard that we offer in the store, All of Me. And it's an offer up for unlimited members. So if you're an unlimited member, go check out this standard. It's great. Even if you don't learn the entire chord melody or learn the entire comping study or learn the entire solo, which I have some things to say about, some choice words to say about. Even if you don't learn all that, taking a listen will teach you a lot about arranging and thinking about how to craft a solo, or working on specific pieces of vocabulary that you want to develop for yourself. Really important to do that. So go take a listen. You'll at the very least absorb something that way. Now, again, as a word of warning, I try to mention this at least whenever I have a Q&A webinar stream, and I try to mention this to all of my private students, anyone I talk to on the JGL members forum. I do want to say that whenever it comes to learning a long form arrangement, someone's drag racing outside. I don't know if you can hear that. Whenever it comes to a long form arrangement, like a full chorus arrangement of a comping study, for example, or an actual chord melody, when it comes down to these sort of full scale arrangements, I want you to, in general, avoid trying to memorize the whole thing. If you're trying to get a complete if you're trying to get yourself a complete solo arrangement for chord melody for a solo jazz guitar set, then by all means, please go ahead and learn the entire arrangement. But if you're trying to develop your chord melody chops, find ways of playing melody and chords together in interesting ways, or if you're trying to learn a new lick from a single note solo or a really awesome chord voicing from our comping study, don't learn the whole thing. What you should do is you should print out the sheet music for all three arrangements, and then go and sit down with a highlighter and listen to the arrangement. And oh, that one's nice. I like that chord voicing there. Or I really like the lick he played in measure 27. That's fantastic. I really want to learn that one. Basically, I want you to highlight the segments that really resonate with you, the ones that really speak to you musically. And you feel it right here, rather than be like, oh, that was kind of neat, I guess. If you're not moved by it, there's no point in trying to learn it. You're not going to want to use it in your own playing in general, in your own improv, or your own arrangements. So with all that said, that's all I wanted to say about tackling the comping study, chord melody, and single note solo from any of the jazz standards. Just highlight the parts that you want and then assimilate it into your vocabulary by learning it, transposing it to different keys, trying it out in different situations, like different songs, but in similar passages, and just basically trying to use that piece of vocabulary as often as you can, wherever you can, in all your songs until you get sick of it. Then you move on, learn a new piece in exactly the same way, a new piece of vocabulary in exactly the same way. So today is June 19th, Wednesday, June 19th, 2019, the Q&A webinar for All of Me. If you're online oops, sorry, just checking the audio. So it looks like you guys can hear me. I hope so. I'm actually here in Ottawa right now at Marc's studio, and he's not here right now, but I figured I'd take the opportunity since I was here. I'm here actually for my wedding on Sunday. So shameless self-congratulations here. Everybody congratulate me. Yeah, I'm getting married. But I'm actually here in Ottawa to get married. And since I was here anyway, I thought I'd go and use Marc's studio, say hi. And he's got a much nicer setup than I do at my home office. So, so anyway, Got the black backdrop. This is great. I'm loving this. And I'm pretty sure that's all the, oh, no, that's not all the housekeeping out of the way. I do want to say that if you're joining me live, please don't hesitate to, I guess, yeah, if you're joining me live, make sure you're watching from the youtube.com website. So if you're watching from the forum right now, the members forum, just click on the little YouTube icon within the video player window. Just click on the YouTube icon. It'll take you directly to the YouTube website. And from there, you can actually participate in the live chat box. I believe it'll be to the bottom right of your screen or directly to the right of your video window on the YouTube website. You can type in the chat and say, hi, everyone, come join me live. Something like that, and that way, if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to ask me in that chat box. I'll be checking back on it every few seconds, every few minutes, I suppose, to make sure that I haven't missed anyone's questions or comments, and I'll try and answer them in kind. So fire away if you have anything. I'm pretty sure that's all the housekeeping. So let's dive right into the lead sheet of this tune. We want to do a harmonic analysis like we always do with the chord progression of the song, as well as how it interacts with the melody, or how it supports the melody, because melody is king. It's one of those things you probably hear a lot of jazz guitarists and jazz teachers tell you, but you don't really know what it means. Melody is king. Just remember that. You don't actually need to know what it means. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly just realized I actually don't have the all of me lead sheet up right now. Sorry, 1 second here. So I'm supposed to be sharing my screen with you, so that you can see it. But it'll just take a moment. All of me. Clearly, I've come unprepared. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, so the lead sheet for, let me just get started with what's going on before I pull it up, or as I pull it up, I should say. But let's get started with talking about the song. I mentioned before that the tune is in the key of C major, pretty standard key for theory purposes. No sharps, no flats, no problem. It makes it really easy to analyze. And then once you start seeing any sharps or flats, you're like, oh, something's going on here. Making some key changes, or secondary dominants are happening like that. We'll see plenty of secondary dominants happening here. And for those of you who are new to the concept, I'll explain them briefly. So here is the lead sheet for All of Me. I'm just going to pull it up on the screen. You should be able to see it in just a second. I'm just going to make sure. Oh, no, look at that. It's infinite. Oh, no. Okay. Hopefully we're just going to do this real quick. Okay, that's better. Okay, so this is the lead sheet for All of Me. It's found you can download it on the standard course for All of Me under the sheet music, PDF sheet music category. Now, just advertisements and things on Dropbox, just go away. Here we are. So this is the lead sheet. We're in the key of C major, no key signature here, no sharps or flats in the key signature at the very beginning. And we actually even start on the tonic chord. And if we just scroll to the end, a really good thing to do whenever you look at a lead sheet is to check the key signature, check the time signature, of course, check the starting chord, and then check the ending chord. Right here, this is the ending chord. This C major right here is the ending chord, but then we also have this optional turnaround that you can do. So for those last 4 bars, you can see, for the last 4 bars, you see a D minor 7, G7, and then C major to end the song. So you hear something like this. And then optionally, to bring us back to the top of the form, a pretty typical turnaround. Sorry, it was from C major, E flat diminished seventh. I'm gonna have problems with this guitar. No fret dots. So I'm like, what fret am I on? So C major. From there, actually, we'll just start from the beginning. So we have why not take all of me, C major, E flat diminished seventh, D minor 7, G7, back up to all of me, and so on and so forth. So that's how you get back to the top of the tune. So it's always good practice to do that whenever you start with a new piece of sheet. You know what? I should just keep this guitar with me in case I need to demonstrate some things like I just did. It's always a good idea to keep it's always a good idea to check the first chord, check the key signature, check the time signature, and check the last chord. And that sort of orients you to, okay, what key are we actually going to be in? What chord are we trying to end on? And of course the time signature, because you don't want to be taken off guard when someone starts counting in 3 and you're like, I thought we were in 4, and things like that, or odd time signatures, it gets weird. Make sure you're prepared anytime you're reading a lead sheet and performing or rehearsing, anything like that. So let's do a quick analysis of what's going on here. This song is firmly in the key of C major. You see a lot of dominant chords here and atypical chord qualities in this key. Don't get fooled by them. They all have the purpose of creating tension to get you back to C eventually. That's the whole idea of this song. It's pretty single key, unique. It's unidiatonic. I don't know if that's the word, but it's definitely pretty much entirely in one key. And there's some parts where we're gonna dance around some of the notes in that aren't C in the key of C major, but it'll just be sort of quick jaunts to, if you want to think of the key as a neighborhood and C as your home, we're gonna hang out at some of our neighbors' places for a little while, and you'll see what I mean in just a second. So let's just look at the first 8 bars. So that's usually in any jazz standard, the first 8 bars are the first phrase, or at least 2 sets of first couple of phrases as a couple, usually, like as a unit. And so we have all of me, why not take all of me, can't you see I'm no good without you. That's the first 8 bars. That's what you see here. And then we go on to something else afterwards. This song takes sort of like an A-B kind of form, where the first 8 bars are what you just heard, and then in the next 8 bars we'll hear something different. But let's talk about this first 8 bars. We start in C major, and we immediately, after 2 bars, we go to the E7 chord. That would be the 3 of the key. But instead of the usual E minor 7, that it would be like a minor, the 3 chord is a minor chord. Instead of the usual E minor 7 that we see, we instead see an E dominant 7. So a chord that isn't usually a dominant chord becoming a dominant chord. This is called secondary dominance. This is a secondary dominant. E7, all it's doing is basically saying, hey, I know we're in the key of C major, but for just a moment, temporarily, I want to tonicize A7, or well, A. I want to tonicize the A note. In other words, I want to really strongly draw the ear toward A. And what better way to draw the ear toward A than by putting an E7 before it? So C major 7, E7. And it goes right to A really, 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 really strongly. I'll make it usually, and once again, usually A in the key of C major, the 6th chord is minor, but again we have this secondary dominant phenomenon happening. And what else does A7 lead to but D? So we're gonna take this sort of series of secondary tonicizations secondary dominant E7 to another secondary dominant A7, and we're finally going to resolve it on bar 7 to the 2 chord, D minor. So it's kind of like we're switching to the key of D minor momentarily, but most people get really uppity about like, are we like, they're like, oh, we've switched keys, we're in D minor. So now I'm thinking, okay, I got to think one flat. I got to think about that now. No, you don't have to think about it like that. We're still in the key of C major. We just got to the 2 chord. We've taken this nice walk around our neighborhood, and we've ended up at our neighbor's house next door, the 2 chord. We're the number 1 house, and then they're the number 2 house next to us. Okay, I know that like street addresses don't really work that way. That the 2 house would be, or the second house on the street would be across the street, and you keep on staggering. Okay, but don't worry about that. The overly extended metaphors. Let's not worry about that analogy right now. So going by this, it's just this nice walk around our neighborhood to bring us to our neighbor's house. We took the scenic route to get to the 2 chord. And that's really all that's happening here. And it's reflected in the melody as well. I want it to be absolutely clear that, why not take all of me, that G sharp. The G sharp is in the melody. Why not take all of me? And then we get to the A. It brings us directly to an A note in the melody too. Can't you see? I know. That's just a little non-chord tone, a chromatic non-chord tone, which leads us nicely back to the E. It gives us a little bit of color. It's cheeky. I'm no good with, and that B flat there. I did say that, like, hey, you don't have to think about this in terms of D minor, but this B flat here kind of makes you think, well, it feels a little bit more like it's in D minor than C major. But again, you could also chalk it up to a little bit of chromaticism, a little bit of cheeky tonicization happening here, where we're like, hey, I do want to give this D minor an even more minor feel rather than a Dorian feel, right? Rather than just the sort of modal Dorian. I'm no good without you, right? Okay. I'm no good without you. Sounds a little bit. It doesn't quite feel as not as much of a sting like that. I'm no good without you. Minor. Ennui, pathos. I'm no good. That sounds a little bit. You got the A7 flat 9 with the B flat. Good without you. So that's a little bit better in terms of the feeling they're going for, right? Let's check out the next 8 bars. Measures 9 through 16 right here. We start again on that secondary dominant E7, and it really brings us to the fact that what we're doing here is we're exploring the neighborhood, and one of the common places to explore in the neighborhood is our good buddy, the relative minor, 2 doors down from C, or 6 doors up from C. It's the circle. It's a circular neighborhood. The relative minor of C is the 6th step of C, which is A. A minor and C major, they're like they're complementary to each other. They're the same neighborhood, but viewed from the darker side of the neighborhood, the cloudy side of the neighborhood. A minor has for some reason, it's always cloudy on A's side of the street. But same neighborhood, same notes. All of the notes are exactly the same, but A minor and C major share the same notes, but they feel different. That's the key behind it all. So this secondary dominant of E7, usually the 3 chord, is a good tip off that it's like, well, maybe 3 dominant. We can look at it as the dominant of the relative minor. So 5 of 6. Or now we can look at that momentarily as our temporary key center. A minor, yeah. So that's da da da. Then it's da 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 dee da. Great. And then because we're on the 6, it's pretty simple to get to to treat it sort of both as the the 6th chord, but also as a temporary 2 of this next chord, D7. That's usually our 2 chord, but again, we've temporarily we've turned it into a temporary dominant, a secondary dominant, D7. And you see here, we're actually missing a chord. I'll mention it in a second. So it's supposed to be D7. We go to 2, 5 of 5. So A minor 7, D7 will bring us to G7. It will bring us to the G chord eventually. But so we're gonna sort of point strongly in that direction with this secondary dominant heading to G. So secondary 2, 5 heading to G, and then we do this is actually a pretty typical move. Instead of following through with that right away, we actually turn the D7. We sort of release the tension a little bit, turn the D7 back into its usual D minor 7, and then follow it up with what should be here is a G7. Unfortunately, we have a typo in the sheet music. I'm very sorry about that. On the sound slice, it should be fine in all of the other sheet music, but for the lead sheet, unfortunately, we have a bit of a typo. Fill it in on your own sheet. It should say G dominant 7 there, G7. Let's see here. Just checking real quickly back in with the chat. Car Guy says, you took the backyard gate to get there, lol. Yeah, exactly. You know exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm glad the analogy works, at least for one person. How do you know when you actually have changed keys? That gets confusing. I'll tell you a secret, Car Guy. Generally speaking, in jazz standards, you're not really changing keys. You can really rely on your ear for this. Some jazz standards do have it where it's like, you have the A, section form of the song. It's pretty standard Tin Pan Alley 32 bar form. A, one phrase, repeat the phrase, entirely new phrase that bridges the gap. Sometimes it's called a bridge, and then you come back to the original phrase and end it there. Well, some jazz standards like Moonlight in Vermont have it where you completely change keys from C major in the first two A sections to E major in the B section, the bridge, and you'll feel it. You're like, oh, we've really changed keys and we've stayed here for a while. So yeah, Car Guy, you're just always kind of pointing to the next thing. So the difference between a key change and temporary tonicization using secondary dominance or other means has entirely to do with how long you stay in the key, how temporary it is. And in this case, these are just sort of like, we're just pointing to different chords. And it's like, if you, for example, at the end of the first phrase, we end on this D minor, and yeah, it feels like we're in the key of D minor. But like, we're there for 2 bars. It's not really that big of a deal. And a lot, we as jazz musicians, we play a lot with making it feel like something, feel like a different key, or borrowing from different modes that we shouldn't be borrowing from, for the sake of adding new color or flavor into the music, which is pretty cool. We can sort of do it at will. And that's part of the strength of the way we improvise. So that's a neat aspect of jazz. Anyway, like I said, measures 15 through 16 should read D minor 7, G7. We're not ending on D minor 7 like we did in the last section, because D minor 7, G7 is 2-5, leading us back to C. And you'll notice, hey, it's the exact same as the first section. All of me, why not take all of me? The lyrics change here. I can't remember exactly what the lyrics are, but I won't bother repeating that. It's the exact same as the first A section. The second A section, starting halfway through the form, is exactly the same. But now we get to the ending. So it's an I should have said it's an A-B-A-C format, where the ending is completely different from the B section that we saw before, where now we start on the 4 chord. You took the part that what once was my heart. Sometimes people play it as a B flat, heart, but so why not take all of me? So that's the idea behind this song. So let me just explain this real quick, and then we'll move on to the rest of what we have. The rest of the arrangements, we'll spend some time on the chord melody, and then a little bit of time on the comping study, and a little bit of time on the single note solo. So I wanted to point out here the 4 chord F to the minor 4 chord F minor. This is called modal mixture, or I always forget the other term for it. Same term, or different terms, same meaning, but this is a pretty common thing to hear in folk, in country music, where you have the, you know. So where you hear that C major, F major, F minor, C major, G major, C, 2, 1, 5, 1, that sort of thing at the end. But that 4 major to 4 minor adds like a little bit of bittersweet motion, and that A flat really leads, that A flat and the F minor really leads down to the G nicely in the C major. So 4 minor is a really good way to get back to C without using a dominant. This is a wow, I don't remember the term. A plagal cadence, 4 to 1 instead of 5 to 1. So for those classical music nerds of you out there, you might recognize the term plagal cadence. So it's kind of like approaching C from the opposite direction of the circle of fifths. Instead of from G down to C, we're going from F up to C. So taking a fifth up, going a fifth up to C, or a fourth down, then which is the opposite direction from what you'd usually do as a cadence to C. So that's very typical in country and folk. You hear it all over the place. Basically what we're doing is we're just borrowing the A flat from the C minor scale instead of the typical A natural from the C major scale. You can do that. C is C no matter what. So whatever devices you can use to get you back to C is great. So if you want to use notes from the C minor scale to get you back to C, even though you're in the C major scale, hey, C is C. It's still the same neighborhood in a way. I don't know how far I can take this neighborhood analogy. So that's the idea behind that. No matter what, leads inevitably back to 1. It's really great. The rest of this progression is pretty typical jazz. Hey, 1, 6, 2, 5, back to, and then I already explained the ending. 1, a stand-in for 6 is a diminished 7th chord that leads back to 2. So then we get to 2, and then 5, and then we're back to the top. So that's the turnaround. That's the lead sheet for all of me. So that's what I wanted to mention for this right now. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen right now. Okay. Hey everybody again. So yes, Car Guy says yes. This is the parallel minor I'm talking about. So C major, looking at C minor, that's called parallel major. C major, looking at A minor, that's relative minor. It's the same notes, no change in notes, but we're looking at this neighborhood from a different perspective, from the 6th step of the scale, A, instead of the 1st step of the scale, and that gives us a slightly different perspective on the whole neighborhood. Feels different. Maybe their rent is higher than yours. They're so filled with ennui as a result. So anyway, my point is that's relative major versus minor, and parallel major versus minor is looking at it from the same note, C versus C, but changing the notes surrounding it. C major has no sharps and flats. C minor has 3 flats: E flat, A flat, B flat. But we're still thinking about C. So that's how that works. Moving on to the chord melody. This one's pretty cool. I do want to mention that right off the bat that this is there's a lot of gaps in this melody. So it gives us a lot of great opportunities to fill the space with chromatic chords. There's an old story about how Joe Pass's father used to yell at him to fill the space. Not a nice story. He apparently used to come home drunk and like grab Joe Pass out of his bed when he was 12 years old and put him in a chair and put the guitar in his lap and just yell at him to practice. And so he became a great guitarist, but like at what cost, right? But one thing he did take into his playing as a result of this kind of really rough coaching, really awful kind of abusive coaching, is that he learned to fill the space really effectively in his playing. And that's what we're going to try and do. All of me. Why not? There's a gap there where we can put some really interesting stuff in chord melody on guitar. So let's take a look at some of that stuff. Real quick. The first thing that I wanted to mention about it was jazz uses a lot of chromaticism. So the first two measures of this sorry. We'll stop there for a second. The first two measures of this, that passage has a lot of movable chord shapes. So we're going to go C6-9. This upper structure. I'm going to actually move this over a little bit. Let's see if I can let you see these guys better. There's your. Oh no, you can see the edge of the screen. No, the illusion is broken. Okay, so we have this C6-9 chord. We have an A, a D. There's your 6 and your 9, and then you have the G and the C, and you have this sort of thing going on where it's C6-9, and then we create tension before we resolve back to C by using a G augmented triad. And that follows the melody, of course. Da, da, da. When it comes to chord melody, it's really important to always keep in mind where the melody note is next. So you've got to learn the melody and you've got to learn the chords, and then you can put it together. So if you don't do that, you're going to have a bad time. Learn the melody. Melody is king. And if you keep in mind where the melody is going next, then you should have a much easier time making your way through this arrangement. So you start with the C6-9. You go to this G augmented triad, which adds a little bit of tension to come back to C. Creates motion in the chord instead of just staying on C the entire time. All right. I was like, okay, that's cool, I guess, but this is cooler. And then immediately we actually go, we play through some chords in the scale. D minor, heading up to, like leading ourselves to E minor. Sorry. And like I said, fill the space, right? We have a big gap where we can fill the space with anything we want. And leading the ear to different inversions of the E minor chord. E minor acts as an upper structure to C majors. So C major 7, C, C, E, G, B, and E minor is just that without the C. E, G, B. So you can use it as a functional substitute. That's what's going on here. We're leading the ear to that E minor by using a parallel structure. You can do that. That's great. You get this chromatic note in between. It just leads the ear nicely to, and we're using these push swing rhythms. Da 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 da. Sorry. Da da da. Again, same thing, but in the next inversion of those two chords, D minor to E minor. Da 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 da. And that's just again making our way downtown, walking fast, faces passing, I'm home about. Da, 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 da. Sorry, that's just making our way through the diatonic chords in the key. If you want motion in the gaps in your melody, or even during our melody, you can just use diatonic chords from the key. If you're in a state of, if you're in a stable state, if you're on the tonic chord, just go through chords like A minor, D minor, E minor. They're really good chords. F major, you can go through them, and it's just good for getting you places. It creates a little bit of motion, tension, and then resolution within a static chord, you know. And so we end up over here on the E7. And this is just a first inversion E7 chord, drop 2 position, drop 2 voicing, G sharp, D, E, and then B in the top, and excuse me, and from there we have the same fingering, but instead of E7, now we're using the upper section of E7 flat 9. We got an F diminished 7th chord. Just so happens that you can use the exact same fingering. And a lot of this chord melody is going to be about using simple fingerings and not going crazy all over the place. Watch the video, watch Nicolas Ferrand, the performer of this, in the video of this arrangement. Watch him and watch his fingering. If you need to, you can actually click and drag the bar in between the video and the video and the sheet music. You can drag it over to the right, and that'll actually enlarge the video, minimize the sheet music, and you can see what Nicolas is playing and how he's playing it. It's really about economy of motion, keeping the same fingerings, or making it real easy on yourself. And that's about leading the voices naturally to the conclusion at the end of the next, or the beginning of the next bar. And we're going to play this chord on top of it. This is our A7 chord. It's a pretty interesting voicing, actually. It's a movable voicing. I'm barring my first finger across the 4th fret to get my C sharp and some other, and sorry, and the 9th of the chord, B natural. We're playing an A7, an A9 chord. We got the 7th there, G. We got the 5th and the root up top. So it's a nice voicing. It's an interesting voicing if you want the root in the top while still getting a whole bunch of extensions. It's great. And this is a B flat 13 chord, or B flat 9 with the 13 on top. Very common voicing. I think you should all learn this voicing for dominant chords. You can use it in a lot of different positions. So it's like if you wanted to play F minor, B flat 9, B flat 13. Nice. And then you end on E flat major 7, just like that, or E flat major 7 sharp 11. Oh, beautiful. Love it. There's this sharp 11 right here. You want it to go up to B flat, which you're actually also playing. I love it. It's great. So anyway, we have this. I'll play the whole thing. And you got to play it fast. So you actually, again, common fingerings. I'm trying to keep that 2nd finger. Just slide it up 1 fret. And here I'm just playing open A, and then I have the guide tones fingered for 1st and 2nd fingers, flat 7, major 3rd, and we have the open B and E, so we got the 9th and the 5th. So this is actually, A chords are great on guitar because you got this open A, and you can do like a whole bunch of stuff here. A7, you can do like A minor 9. A major 9. So it's pretty cool what you can do with the A chord and the top 2 open strings. It's lovely. I love doing that. So anyway, that's the idea behind this short little chord sequence. It's tricky. There's a lot of notes, but again, use economy. It's all about economy of motion. So play slow. So. Use common fingerings wherever you can. And then you hear that chromatic in the bass while the melody is playing. We're playing a bass of D, but we're still playing an A7 flat 9 in the top. So it's like we've arrived, the bass has arrived, but the chord up top says, no, we're not going in the door yet. And now we're going in the door. And then we're back to A7, and then we're back to D minor. These are just different open triads of D minor in different inversions. Nice to move around. Notice we'll be using these a lot. We're using these a lot in this particular arrangement. I should probably skip ahead. So watch out for those spread triads. They're pretty neat. Those different inversions of D minor. With the open A, if you want to play it up here. These are very useful to inversions of the minor triad to learn. down onto this other string group. Practice those and learn them. I want to say those are some of the interesting parts of the first half of this. But the second half of this particular arrangement involves a stride piano kind of bent, a stride piano style / Chet Atkins country style jazz guitar approach to comping the melody in Chord Melody. Donnie says, did you say who was doing the demo? The person doing the demo on for All of Me, and for the past several issues actually, since I think Blue and Green maybe, or maybe before, is Nicolas Ferron, if you want to anglicize it, but Nicolas Ferron. He's a guy from Montreal, a good friend of Marc's, and phenomenal player, really good arranger too, as you can tell by these arrangements. They're so fantastic. Back to the arrangement, I want to get to the second half of this where we're doing this sort of Chet Atkins chicken picking kind of style of guitar, and a lot of this has to do with at first it looks really daunting in the second half, and you hear it. I'm just going to play it for you real quick. It sounds like this. We'll stop there for a second. It sounds really daunting and busy, but it's actually not too bad. If you watch Nicolas' hands in this, he stays to one chord, and it's all mostly in the right hand, with a few little country and bluesy and country sort of style decorations. You know, one of my favorites actually is in measure 22 on the sound slice, where he plays. He sort of preps himself for an A7 chord, but a half step down. So G sharp 7, and he gets this with a triplet. 1 and triplet 3. Sorry, I'm blocking. Maybe I should just play it like this. Yeah. Sorry. We'll stop there for a second. So this style of this sort of Chet Atkins style of country jazz is pretty neat, and one of the key points of it is that the bass note is always like root, octave, 5th, octave, quarter notes. So instead of a walking bass, instead of that sort of thing, we have this. And we have these static chords that we arpeggiate. Sorry. Notice in that part, you have to actually hammer on at the same time as you pick the bass note. And at this point, it's a good idea to change fingering. And you'll see that Nicolas does that. Yeah. So I'll play that all again. Sorry. And we go down to an E7 chord. We have to think about where the melody's going and where the chords are going if you want to navigate this properly. We got to get to E7. So we play just a standard like cowboy chord E7. Oh, sorry. And we immediately shift over to this sort of fingering. And then we got this fingering here. Again, a different kind of cowboy chord, F7. So we're just going to create a little bit of tension on the first beat of the second bar of E7. Gives us some time to create some tension and like pull the rubber band and then release, and we're back to E7. So create some nice motion over what should have been a static chord. So see that rubber band sort of thing happening. Checking to see if anybody has any questions. Car guy. Okay, that ain't happening, lol. All right, no, you can totally do it. It's just a little bit tricky. Start with the first two bars, like, and once you start getting it, you'll sort of start to see the pattern happening with the arpeggiation and stuff like that. And it's daunting at first, but you get this, like, we've probably all heard that country style of guitar playing. It's almost in our blood as guitarists. If guitar ability was passed on genetically, it's not. but it feels like it kind of is. It's kind of written into the code of guitarists almost. It's like, yeah, I kind of know this sound, what the sound is. So you have an easier time doing it than you'd expect. But yes, you gotta really work out the right hand. It takes a little bit of time, and you gotta go slow. Just sort of like start with the first two beats. So you get, that's all you need. So you get root, octave, right? Root, octave, and melody up top. Da, 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 all of me, fifth. That's it. That's all. And then you can add the second part in. Well, apparently I need to go slower here. Can I put those both together? And we know that the next beat, it's usually good to don't let bar lines stop you. You want to stop after the bar line. You want to stop on beat one. Those are landing points. So 1, 2, and 3. Sorry, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. That's how you want to naturally start and stop when you take things apart piece by piece. It's hard to stop at the end of a phrase. You got to go for the natural points of resolution. So end on beat one is what I'm saying. What else do I got for this? Oh yeah. So you got that bass octave root, fifth octave root with your thumb quarter notes. The other fingers are doing the arpeggiation and the melody. There's very little chromaticism in what's going on here. And the moment you get some chromaticism over here, so it's, you get to this part here. When you get that chromaticism, you're like, that's not country jazz anymore. Now it's back a little bit more back into swing and jazz, right? And then, sorry. What happens next? I forget what happens next. But the moment you get there, you're like, oh, okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah, that chromaticism is like, that's more swing now. We're back into the swing territory. So there's not much chromaticism happening. We're using a lot of cowboy chords and like those open bar, those big 6-string bar chords that you learned, and these like cowboy dominant chords. E7, and we're using a lot of those throughout this whole affair. And it almost makes it easier. It feels like a return to, for those of you who've been playing rock and folk and country guitar. It feels like a nice return to that kind of chordal vocabulary. Those who grew up with that will feel a lot more at home playing these chords. And so that's why I say it's actually easier than you expect it to be. Even though it feels daunting. It's just taking stuff that you actually already know, most of you, and then doing something different with it, with the picking process than you might have done previously. So sorry, I shouldn't have made it dominant. And then we have this A dominant 7th chord. Oh, sorry. I just scrolled down. I'm sorry. And then this thing. This is cool. Right, that triplet. Sorry. That's it. So if you don't want that, if you don't want the root 5th root, you can actually simplify it to root 5th as half notes instead of that quarter note rhythm that I had before. It's a simpler version of it, but alternating root and 5th, pretty simple. That's a jazz thing. That's a country thing as well. So yeah, so that's basically what's going on there. There's a neat part going on with the so why we're back to chromaticism, right? Here we are. Not take. Sorry. Take. Make it feel like it's going to a minor chord. Ooh, a little bit of bittersweetness there. It's kind of like that F major F minor thing, but this is over the 5 chord. And then this is a must learn. You've got to learn this. Every one of you watching, you got to learn this part here. You can come back to me, but it's just. I'll see if you can see my. So this is sort of like the ending turnaround in a way, but it's pretty typical. You hear it, you'll understand it when I hear it. C major, just that's it. Just C major, a triad with the bass and the root and the bass. Sorry. This is a C9 chord. So you got the it's a C9 without the flat 7. So you can see every one of my fingers. F major. You hear where the bass is going. Da, da, da. We're heading to 5. Da, 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 is how it's going to sound. Bass in the 5 in the bass, 5 in the octave in the melody. Octaves and we're done. Oh, for God's sake. That's what I meant to hit. And this is just a D flat 9 heading to C flat 9, a C9. So we're ending on C. We're making it a dominant chord, a dominant 9 chord, which makes it feel a little bit bluesier, cheekier. Ascribe any significance you want to that, but that's basically it. So here's how that sounds in the end. F, A flat 7, 3rd inversion. So it's just the notes from A flat 7, but with the G flat in the bass. Just G7 cowboy chord. A G, A, B, C. Oh, sorry. That one's not anticipated. You could even play that like this, the typical 9 chord that you guys might know. But maybe it sounds different on your guitar on the lower strings than it does on the middle string. So that is the chord melody. Let's breeze through the other ones. I'm going to start with the single note solo because the single note solo is going to be puzzling for a lot of you. Marc describes in the introduction to it. Yeah, Donnie, which measure is this must learn piece? Measure 31 through 34. That's the ending. The last 4 measures of the chord melody. You got to. if you need to slow down what I've done, you can actually replay this and play it at half speed, playback speed and the gear icon, and then go to 0.5 times, and it'll slow it down without changing the pitch. So you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so the single note solo. I do want to talk about the single note solo because it's crazy. It's really crazy. It's actually a transcription of the solo by pianist Lenny Tristano over a tune that he called "Line Up," and it's just a contrafact of All of Me, but in the key of A flat major and without a melody. He just launches right into improvisation. A contrafact is a song written using the same chord changes as another song. So every blues ever is a contrafact. I don't know if there was a first blues. Every rhythm changes song ever is a contrafact of I've Got Rhythm. They take the same chord changes and they write a new melody over it. In this case, Lenny Tristano didn't write a new melody so much as just go ham improvising over top of it, and it sounds amazing. The two things that I wanted to just outline for this one, I want you to look at rhythmic displacement of your lines. So drop a beat. One way to do this is to just start a phrase that you feel like would typically start on beat one or lead into beat one, and anticipate it or delay it to make it sound awkwardly off. And that's one way of doing it. But the way that Lenny does it in this one, twice in the solo that we transcribed, in the parts of the solo that we transcribed, measures 9 to 12 on the sound slice, and measures 57 to 59. So that's near the end of our transcription. So here's measures 9 to 12. It starts off with 8 measures of rest. So and we're in the key of A flat major instead of C major. So you have to think accordingly. We're starting on the C7 chord. So we're actually, after 8 measures, we're starting on Take Matter, I'll never use them. I can't remember the melody, but da 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 da, use them to F minor. So it's C7 flat 9. We're starting on measure 9 here. I'm going to let you hear the whole thing. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here goes 7, 8. Let's just stop that after the second phrase. So this line is cool. It's a da 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 da. What Lenny Tristano does is he drops a beat of rest in between the two subphrases. So instead of ba ba da ba ba da da ba da ba 4, 3, 4, right? Ba ba da ba ba da da ba da 3, 4, wa da da. On beat 1, he actually just goes straight into it and goes ba ba da da ba da da ba da ba ba da. And like you get this delay effect where ba ba da, you feel like it's come in early, so it feels like almost like it's in you're playing in 7/4 almost for a moment. But the rest of the rest of the musicians just keep plugging along in 4, and so you're left with this extra space at the end of the bar once he gets to the end of the phrase. It's wild stuff. So it sounds like this: ba ba da 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 ba ba da. Well, actually, no, I'll just 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I hope you can hear that. That's one of the places I wanted you to see. The other place I wanted you to see is less obvious because it's not like a lick that he's like displaced upward into 2 different places. I think it is actually. It might be 57 to 59. It's just a straight eighth note phrase. Sorry, it's a swing eighth note phrase instead of the 6 eighth note phrase. An 8 eighth note phrase instead of a 6 eighth note phrase. But it sounds like this: 57. Sorry, 58 to 15. I think it's 58 to 59. 57 to 59. Okay. So it leads in with this sort of dooba 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 dooba, and you got this. It happens fast and it's weird to hear, but it's the sort of thing where you'd expect it to finish out the phrase before you get to the next chord. So you finish out the phrase. I'm just going to put it at 50% speed so you can all hear it. So we're starting just the bar before. Sounds vaguely demonic, I know. But the idea here is that we have da da dee da 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 do da dee da 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 boo. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and it feels like 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and, because you have the extra, but you have to put that extra beat somewhere. So really it's just 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 3. Sorry. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So yeah, hopefully you could hear that. I know it's not the best quality. I'm actually using the laptop speakers for that. But the idea here is rhythmic displacement of your line. The best way to do it is to experiment with yourself by playing short phrases that are supposed to fit the measure. Hopefully with one, like a 6/8 note phrase, and then leave one beat of rest before you play that same phrase, but move it up or move it down. So like a 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and, pretty simple, right? 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So you do that sort of thing. But if you just, sorry, 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4. Yeah, that's extra space at the end. Feels like you've come in early with the second part, and this works especially well if you're playing this sort of reiteration of a similar lick that still follows the chord changes. So as you get better at playing the changes, you'll also get better at finding little licks like this if you try and find them, if you try and create them, if you try to make them happen. And then you'll want to start working with rhythmic displacement. This is sort of like a third pillar of improvisation notion, a phrasing notion that Marc expounds upon in Improv 103. Go through Improv 102 or 101, Improv 102, get to Improv 103, try it out for yourself, then revisit this. This solo is pretty next level. Yeah, so best way to use this device, use a repeating subphrase that would normally fill the bar, but then cut out a beat. Either cut out a beat by keeping a rest, or cut out a beat by just not repeating as many notes to get to the end of the bar. Cut out some unnecessary notes, and then just start the next iteration of the line early. Another thing that happens in this solo is there's a lot of implied chord substitution within a melodic line. So you have this melodic line, and you play other notes. You see a lot of 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6 structures. That's just a major pentatonic scale. There's a major pentatonic scale on C. You can see a vanilla example on measure 27. A flat on the A flat major scale. You see that? You hear something like that. Sorry. Just an A flat major pentatonic scale. But if you take that and you put it on a different chord, you get to imply different chord substitutions or extensions and alterations on that chord than you'd normally expect. So for example, playing a D major pentatonic over a D flat minor 7 on measures 25 to 26. It's hard. Well, you know what? I'll just let them play it and I'll play the bass. 25 to 26 is over here. That's during that 4 major, 4 minor, 1, and I'll just try and play that quietly while you hear the melody. So you get this weird like 3, Do, do, do. You start getting this D natural major over D flat minor. Sorry. And then you're back to A flat major. You get this major pentatonic scale again over top. And then it moves on. There's another one that happens shortly afterwards. I believe it's Car Guy. Thanks for joining us. But I know who that is. I think I know who that is. 25 to 33. Sorry. Where is it? Okay, yes. Measure 30 has another one. You get this A flat major 9 chord over the E flat 7. It sounds a little bit like this. Measure 29. Sorry, measure 30. So you get this E flat 7 chord. And we're gonna land on A flat in the next bar. But we have this happening over top of it. So you have, I'll try and play the bass at the same time. I'll try and play like a chord so that it sounds right. There's the E flat 7 sound. It creates this tension, this A major before A flat. It's almost like a tritone substitution. That's what's going on in that particular one. And then we also have measure 32. There's a D flat major pentatonic as the upper structure to a B flat minor 7. And then a D flat diminished 7 upper structure to E flat 7 flat 9. That sort of thing. And we think we end on C. So the idea is that you get this sort of so you get that. And actually, let me see what the actual line is. It's that's actually a really nice line you could learn for any 2-5. You get start on the third of B flat minor 7 of your 2 chord, the third of your 2 chord. Play it as if it was a 1, 2, 3, 5. Structured 1, 2, 3, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're skipping the 4. 1, 2, 3, 5, and then and end up on the 6. When you get to E flat 7, the 6 of the 1, 2, 3, 5 of this D flat major pentatonic structure. So you end up on the 5th of your E flat 7 chord. So I'm looking at this from multiple perspectives. I'm sorry, I'm jumping around a lot. And then diminished 7 arpeggio downward from that note. Da, 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 da. And you end on the 3rd of C of A flat major of your 1 chord C. Of your 1 chord A flat major, the C note. It's a really good 2-5-1 line. You can just lift that particular line, measure 32 to 33, lift that line, and just use it in your playing anytime you see a 2-5-1 in the span of 2 bars. 2-5 in 1 bar, 1 in the next bar. There's also another must-learn line that I want you to all check out. Measure 16. Measure 16. You get this. It's all over a 5 chord. So 2, and then 5 is where the actual lick comes in. It's just straight 8th notes, or a little swing 8th notes, I guess. E flat 7 to E flat alt, and then ending on A flat major. So it's just all over E flat 7, and it sounds like this. It's similar to the last one in that you have this. It's a very simple chord progression. So you're playing basically the upper structure of a B flat minor 7 chord, B B flat minor 9, sorry, chord. And then you end up on the ninth of that. That's right. You're playing this D flat major 7 arpeggio, which acts as the upper structure of B flat minor 9. So you got B flat minor 9 if you want to, for 2 bars, for 2 beats. And then you'd go to this E flat note in the next on the third beat of that bar. But this is where you start playing down the arpeggio of an E flat 7. That's right, E flat augmented triad. D flat major 7 up, E flat augmented down. Actually, sorry. Not E flat augmented. You actually want to go down, get the E minor major 7 structure, and then land on the E flat when you resolve to the next bar. So I hope to hear people posting videos of themselves playing this particular lick on the JGL members forum. So that's all I really wanted to say for all of me. We're running out of time. I can't really get to too much from the comping study, but I will say it's all about walking chords, and I want you to know that when you try to approach walking chords, you really need to know your diatonic scales and the diatonic chords associated with that scale. So if we're in C major, you got to know C major 7, D minor 7, E minor 7. The 4 chord is F major 7. The 5 chord is G7. The 6 chord is A minor 7. And the 7 chord is B minor 7 flat 5, B half diminished. And you have to know how to play those in multiple ways. And there's specific chord shapes that you'll find right away in this walking chord study, this comping study for all of me. I think you'll find that it makes it really easy sorry, not really easy, but really natural to play these walking chord shapes as you get more and more used to them. Other chord shapes make it harder, and really you only want 3 notes in your chord, because 4 notes and 5 notes, 5 strings, it just gets too cumbersome to walk all of these notes. So that's really what I wanted to say about that. Look for specific maneuvers between specific functions of chords. Like look for a 2-5-1 or maybe a 5-1 in a minor key, and see how you can walk, like the examples in there of how to walk between those specific functions of chords. Look also for not so typical motions, so you find the exceptions to the rules. And this is a really good way to learn how to walk chords in this comping study. So yeah, that's all I got to say for this. Thanks everybody for joining me. Thank you, Car Guy and Donnie. I really appreciate having your attention and your company. It's nice to know I'm not screaming into the void of the internet alone here. It's getting dark. So thanks everybody for joining me. And I think Marc will be hosting the next webinar. It's the 3rd Wednesday of the month of July. And it will be on the jazz standard Prelude to a Kiss. Beautiful, hauntingly beautiful, disturbingly beautiful chord progression and melody. It's just a super chromatic sound. Love it. So check that out. It drops on July 1st. You can check out the standard if you're an unlimited member, and then prepare yourself for a really fantastic webinar with Marc-André. Marc will help you go through the tune and the arrangements just like I did today. If you have any questions, let me know at nathan@jazzguitarlessons.net. It's nathan@jazzguitarlessons.net. Send me an email, and I'm happy to go through that with you. Other than that, until next time, happy shedding. Take care. Yeah, I'm not hosting next month because I'm on my honeymoon. Yeah, it's gonna be great. So I'll be on vacation, and I'll say hi to all of you from Ireland. That's what we'll do. Take care, everybody, and until next time, happy shedding. Bye.